I want to talk about one more point here that does come up when we're talking about making causal claims from experiments. Sometimes you don't get any differences between groups. This is called a null finding, a null effect. So the number of tasks completed did not vary based on whether they were at a sitting desk, standing desk, walking desk. So you might be thinking, type of desk has no effect on number of tasks completed. It's easy, it's simple. We got a null effect. That means there's no cause and effect relationship to identify here. Well, that is one interpretation we could take away from these results. But there's a lot of things that can lead to a null effect, and null effects are actually a pretty confusing and difficult result to interpret. So you could get a null effect because of poor measurements, a poor dependent variable, or weak manipulations. So it's quite possible that you did a really good experiment and desk type actually doesn't influence productivity, but you also, if you get a null effect, you could have just forgotten to control for something in your experiment and had a bad experiment. So, you know, if I'm studying in the example of a type of music and your ability to do math problems, if I put the music on volume 2 and people can barely hear the music, so it doesn't really matter if they're listening to classical, heavy metal, or alternative, I just ran a bad experiment. I had a weak manipulation. And so we didn't see any differences in their ability to do math problems when maybe there would be one there if the volume was at a level where they could hear it. So I would be wrong to just do that experiment, to do the experiment poorly, get no results, and say, there's no relationship here. That's why it's so tough when you get a null effect to know how to interpret it. We also could have an insensitive dependent variable. Maybe we also just have ceiling or floor effects. So maybe my 10 math problems are so easy that anyone, whether they're at any kind of desk, is going to get all of them correct. So these bars would all be all at the top. Everyone would be getting 9 or 10 out of 10 correct. And we wouldn't be seeing any differences between groups because we'd be seeing, in that case, a ceiling effect where everyone's at the very high end of the dependent variable because we just have a bad dependent variable. It's too easy. Using the example from before with police and security camera footage, if it's just really obvious who the bad guy is in the crowd, everyone's going to get that right, and we're not going to see any difference over time if both videos are super easy because we have a bad dependent variable. So, or you can have just a really difficult dependent, say the 10 math problems are incredibly hard and everyone's getting none of them right or one of them right in each condition. Well, we're not going to see any differences between conditions, but that's because our dependent variable wasn't in that Goldilocks zone that would allow us to pick up on those. We'd have a floor effect in that case. So floor effect, everyone's at the bottom end of the DV. Ceiling effect, everyone's at the top end. So this is something to keep in mind, especially when picking a dependent variable. Something to be aware of. There can also, you know, there can be any number of differences of issues that could lead to a null effect.